Two of the most iconic voices in golf are back to save the day and ready to entertain in their newly weekly video podcast. Kostis and McCord, off their rockers.
And welcome to another episode of the infamous Kostis and McCord, off their rockers. Mike Abram, your producer and cat wrangler sometime. We've got Peter Kostis, Gary McCord. We're here to talk about all things golf, especially a little Open Championship preview, maybe a little Believe It or Not, and talk a little bit about the new Ryder Cup captain for next year, Keegan Bradley, who came out of kind of out of nowhere for this. Peter, Gary, how are we doing today? You want to talk a little bit about Troon before we get going? Good to see you guys. How's summer going for both of you?
Well, so far up here in Maine, it's pretty good, although it's unseasonably warm, and we're getting the remnants of that hurricane coming up here, so it's nice and humid as well, but it's all good. It's all good here. I'm looking forward to Troon because I've heard that I checked with some people. They had a wet and hot spring, which means the rough is way up. The golf course is spectacular. And if they get a little bit of wind or maybe some other weather, it could be a diabolical test. Gary, how about you?
Well, if it's anything like the last time they played there in 2016 between Henrik and Phil, it'll be worth watching because that was epic, that match coming down the end. So, again, over there, Peter, it's all about the weather. You never know. You never know. You're going to get in the wrong side of the starting times and get blown out, and the other side's perfect. So it's always entertaining over there for one reason or another.
Maybe playing a little.
Well, I think the rough is going to have a huge influence on this year's compared
Sure.
to Phil's week and Henrik's week. This stuff is epic. I mean, 5 steps off of the fairway, it's chip out sideways stuff. So if the wind gets going, we're not going to see the low scores. In fact, we could see some really high scores.
So we might have had.
Yeah, it might. After Quad Cities, it might be good if we saw some bogeys after that onslaught. I thought I watched the entire thing. I even watched ESPN Plus, which I always do in the morning, of guys that you really don't know about tee off early, and to watch. I thought it was on tape because every time they showed a putt, it went in. Every time they showed a fairway, it went in the fairway, and it was fun to watch after a while, and then it got ridiculous. I even turned it off after the first 3 holes when Davis, I think, birdied the first 2 out of the 3. I went, well, somebody's going to get 30 under here, and no one's going to be watching. And then I saw the ratings, and it had the highest ratings they've had in years there. They actually got to a 3-2 on Sunday in a blowout, which is, Peter, amazing to me. I can't figure out these ratings this year. The ratings were awful, and now they're starting to climb. And that was July 4th weekend too. There shouldn't have been anybody watching, and they got phenomenal ratings. Do you have any idea of the formula we're seeing this year? Where early in the big tournaments, nobody watched, and now all of a sudden these tournaments at the end of the year when you shouldn't be watching, people are watching. I got no idea.
I think also it's always been historically a lot of the ratings have been weather driven, right? And with a lot of heat all around the country, people are staying indoors, not going out, maybe not playing as much right now, so they stay in and watch it. But that's the only explanation that I have because trust me, I did not watch but about 45 seconds of it. I had no interest.
I guess our fans, the golf fans, want to see birdies because they've sure got a ton of them. As you said, Davis Thompson with his first win, getting it was a birdie fest for sure. Not a great field. And then this week, Scottish Open, kind of getting ready. But as you said, Peter, with the heavy, thick rough, maybe going to play more like a traditional U.S. Open. Of course, this year's U.S. Open played firm and fast at Pinehurst. With that great win by Bryson DeChambeau. Who are you guys looking at with thick rough, with having to hit it out sideways if you miss the fairway. Gary, who do you like?
I'll go out on a limb and say Scotty. I'm going to go way
He's one of
out
the few
on a
taking
limb.
the week off. The week before, he took the week off.
Yeah, he's been up here at Peter's old place in Telluride, up in Colorado with his boys for the last couple of weeks. So, I don't know how you put. I mean, you got to put Bryson in there, and you got to put Scotty in there. Bryson, this is always interesting. I probably like to watch Peter. I probably like to watch Bryson more than any tour pro right now play golf. It's just it's fascinating how he's going to handle conditions. And if you're talking about the British, I don't see him a lot of walking the ball up on the greens and playing conservative. It's hauling ass all over the golf course, and he takes what he gets. But it's going to be interesting. Again, you can't even predict anything because of the weather and the starting time. So we've known that for 50 years. And but it's fun. It's fun. I get a big kick out of watching him play golf. I sure wish he was still on the PGA Tour because I think he's the biggest miss by far that we have for players to watch.
You're right. And back in the day when I went over to final qualifying, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, never made it, but I tried it. I got my teeth into links golf, and initially I hated it. I thought it was the worst form of golf known to man because, you got a bad bounce here or a bad break there, or you end up in a bunker and you couldn't get out and, toward the hole and all that stuff. And I hated it initially. And then I came to realize that it's in actuality, it's the ultimate test of ball striking and your ability to control the golf ball.
Wow.
Once I came to that realization, that I was just hitting it shitty. That's why I didn't play well. Then I learned. And so when I look at Troon, you want to go out on the front 9 and you can get 2, 3, 4 under on the front 9 and take advantage of some of those holes. And then you turn around and you hang on for dear life on the back 9. I look for the ball strikers. And especially if the wind comes up, because the wind will expose anybody who's not hitting it solidly. And if you put the wind and the quirkiness of a links golf course together, then you're really amping up the emphasis on ball strikers and ability to control the golf ball, turn it back into the wind, ride it with the wind, hit it low, hit it high, do whatever, because that's what's going to determine who the champion golfer of the year is. So I've grown fondly in love with links golf because it really does test your ability to hit the golf ball solid.
It's great.
Yeah, and also, because of that, because just what you said, you go over there and you got to work it out at first to figure out what to do. It really lends itself to guys that have been there before and done that.
Yeah.
We've got, the thing is, what I was alluding to, the fact that there's so many kids now. Good God, this kid from Florida State just came in 10th and 2nd. What's going on here? I mean, what is going on? Clanton, Jesus Christ, he's playing good. But all these kids, Oldberg, all these guys, you wonder, have they seen that under the gun? Have they had to knock a 4-iron 4 feet off the ground and roll it 100 yards? To avoid 3 bunkers and rolling on the green. Have they done that? They can. But have they done that before? And that's the key. And that's why you look for these wily veterans to be able to, like you said, going out, take advantage, coming in, hanging on, trying to do what you got to do, fight any way to get the ball in the hole, other than hitting, high perfect shots and stuff like that. And that takes a while, but these kids are so talented now that it probably won't take too long. But I'm amazed at the influx of these kids now that are just out of college coming out here beating the crap out of these guys that play for a living. It's amazing.
It's crazy.
It really is.
Yeah, but you put them on a golf course that's soft and wet and big and whatever. And there's not really much decision making going on. It's about execution, and they can certainly execute. They have technically excellent golf swings, right? But when you get
Right.
out there, it's like one time I was playing at Turnberry, playing in a tournament. The wind was basically in off the left for the front nine. After you went 1, 2, 3, and then you go out to 9, out to the lighthouse, and it's all into me, like 30 miles an hour, left to right. And I hit it okay. I hit it pretty good actually, and made a bunch of putts and whatever. I shot 30 on the outward 9, and I'm thinking, damn, this is going to be fun because the whole back nine's downwind, and I'm really going to get it. Well, I shot 40 on the back because I couldn't get the ball to stop. I didn't know what the hell to do. I was hitting 300-yard, and this is back in the day. I was hitting 300-yard 2-irons that never stopped until they found a creek or whatever. And so these guys are going to be faced with different decision-making issues. And so, yeah, I think the younger guys with their ball striking will perhaps get themselves into contention. I would highly doubt that one of them would win it. I think it's going to take some experience and maybe even some experience around Royal Troon to really seal the deal, in my opinion.
Odds makers have Scotty Scheffler on the top, Gary, and then Rory McIlroy, Bryson DeChambeau, Xander Schauffele, Ludwig, Oberg, and Colin Morikawa. Peter, McCord grabbed Scotty Scheffler, and we'll let him pick somebody else. You take 2 picks. Who do you like for this week?
Well, it's got to be a good driver of the golf ball. You're going to have to find fairways. So I would go to my stat sheet and look up, who's hitting the most fairways. Back in the day, Mark Calcavecchia won there in '89, and he was a student of mine. And I always remember how he played, and it favored his cut back then. So my number one priority is find somebody who can drive the ball in the fairway, or if not use driver, hit a fairway wood, a hybrid, or a long iron, but put the ball in the short grass. That's number one. Number two, I would look for people who are. You don't get very many 3-foot birdie putts over there. Sometimes 30 feet from the hole is a great shot. Sometimes 40 feet from the hole is a great shot, which means you got to be a good lag putter, and you got to be a good lag putter in the wind, right? So I'm going to favor this time. If I go with a power player, like obviously Bryson's been playing well. I don't know what he's going to do this week in Spain, but if I go with a power player, it's going to be because they throttle back and use their power to not have to rely on the driver all the time. I mean, the 17th and 18th holes are going to be terrific to watch because there's so many bunkers and so many possibilities for disaster. But they're not going to hit driver on 18. They'll hit iron unless it's into a gale. So I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Rory to recover from Pinehurst. And then after that, I suppose somebody like Xander, who's a pretty good driver of the golf ball, might work out.
Okay.
But I don't know. I got to look at the stat sheets on driving accuracy and lag putting.
Well, we'll put it here in the comments. Gary, okay, you said Scheffler. Who's your next choice?
If I had to go to a long shot, and this is against everything I've been saying,
unbelievable.
Shocking.
Akshay has got the ability for a youngster to work the ball all over the place. And he loves to hit low darts. He loves to run it up. He loves to play golf that way. He might have a very good chance over if the conditions get a little warped over there. And again, you're the luck of the draw in that deal. Peter, I like the way he plays golf.
Okay, but I'll counterpoint that by saying, if it gets windy, how do you think he handles the long putter?
Well, that's the problem, and also his weight. at 130 pounds, get blown all over the place. The long putter could actually, it's like it's like if you had an oar, in the boat, you just stuck it in the green, and then you started working it that way. It might anchor him a little better, but I just like the way he plays golf. I think he's going to be eventually. I think he'll be a presence in the Open over there in years to come. Just because he's young and he loves to work it. A lot of these kids really don't know how to work it yet. They've got one flight pattern,
Yeah.
and they use it well. But I mean, this kid's been flipping around high, low, left, right, doing everything possible. He's on a good run. Again, the putter is the thing. It looks like he found his way now with that long putter. How does the putter work in the wind when it's excessive over there? Don't know. But I just like the way he plays golf.
Great. Peter, give us your thoughts of fellow New Englander Keegan Bradley being named Ryder Cup captain for next year at Bethpage Black, and no Tiger. What happened?
Well, normally the cliche would be this came out of left field. But this came out of the Green Monster because he's a New Englander and he's a Red Sox fan. This came out of nowhere for me. And I can't help but think that this was partially, I'm not going to say completely by any stretch, but partially influenced by the Netflix Full Swing series last year. And the fact that he was left off the team, he was disappointed. He's passionate about the Ryder Cup, even though he's only played in two. He's still very, very passionate. And also, I think that the PGA of America has perhaps heard the reverberations from Italy about the old boys club and picking people who are buddies and all that stuff. And so I think that they're perhaps trying to shake it up a little bit. Keegan can be confrontational, and that's actually one of his assets as a player, in my opinion. So you put him on Long Island at Bethpage Black. I think he's a good captain choice if you're going to go in a different direction. I mean, remember, ultimately, years ago, we were talking that this was Phil Mickelson's captaincy, case closed, end of the argument, because of his love affair with the New York fans. Well, that's not going to happen because of Liv. So if I look at it, trying to get the fans on his side, although you don't play well, they're going to turn on you no matter what because they're New Yorkers. But I think Keegan can be a good choice.
Gary,
I think he can motivate players.
Gary, Peter speaking about Liv, and Keegan came out and said yesterday, I don't care. Liv, wherever they're playing, we're going to pick the 12 best players to win the Cup. What do you think about Keegan Bradley as a choice? That Tiger said, I don't have time to do it with all my responsibilities now with the PGA Tour.
Well, I mean, that's your case scenario right there. So what Peter said, it was Phil's. This was going to be Phil's Ryder Cup captaincy here. And then, okay, Phil's not there. So now, okay, Tiger, you're done. No, I can't. I'm negotiating too many things. Like I just don't want to go. Now, who you got? I mean, if you're the PGA, who you got? So you're sitting there. You got Stuart Saint. Okay, you got Davis Love. Been there, done that. You've got who else? Let's see. We've got somebody called Keegan. That was probably the reaction. Peter, I don't think it had anything to do with Netflix. It might have been in the back of their mind, but I think it's the fact that geographically he's up there. That was his home course when he was playing all those years in college. He obviously has a relationship to New York. He loves New York, and I think it's a really good pick. He's the youngest captain we've had in a long time. At 38, he'd be 39 when the tournament goes, and he could still, which is another sidebar, he can still make the team as a player, which he's going to try to do after getting skunked on the last deal. So there's a lot of things going on that are good, really good. And I think if you look at our record, and we haven't won since on the road. We haven't won since '93. So obviously what we're doing is not real good so far,
especially on the road.
Why not?
Well, what I can't believe, Gary, is that according to his press conference, the first time he heard about being a captain was when they called him.
Right.
They had no preliminary discussions, nothing.
Yeah, nothing. That's why I said, okay, guys, I can see the PGA of America guys sitting around. All right, Tiger's just called. He's not doing it. Anybody? Who you got?
And it sounded like they didn't even ask him. They said, "Hey, you got to step up. This is your time."
No,
he was overwhelmed.
This is your time because we got nobody else. Yeah. Go get him. Go get him. You're there. You're not pay for your airfare or anything. You can drive over there. So yeah, I think it's good. I mean, again, it's a captain. It's a captain. These guys are good players. They know what to do. Hopefully, we can hold home soil. Well, the idea is we got to figure out what to do in 2026 when we're on the road again.
To that end, speaking from a coach's perspective, as I look to the future, I'll divorce myself from golf for a second, and I'll say that Bobby Knight was a hell of a college basketball coach, but he couldn't coach today's kids, right? Even Bill Belichick, for his tenure with the Patriots, is having trouble with the younger players. Certainly, Vince Lombardi couldn't, or John Wooden couldn't coach players today because the culture has changed so much, right? And so we got more and more young players. I mean, really young players who are quality players. And so you're going to have to get younger captains for the Ryder Cup. You're going to have to get people who can relate to them and they can relate to as well. And it's going to change. There's not going to be, I don't think you're going to see players playing on 8, 9, 10 Ryder Cups anymore. I think the talent is too deep. I think it's too young. You're going to see a whole bunch of players playing maybe just one time or two times. And so you have to figure out how to meld together a team, how to get at least a couple of guys with experience, hopefully, on the team that you can blend together and take the young guys and hold their hand. But I mean, it's going to be a different game going forward. And not just for the U.S. side. I think it's going to be the same for the European side. You're going to see a bunch of what we currently call no names because we're just not used to them. But they're great players, and this might be their only Ryder Cup appearance. So what are you going to do with them? Right?
Yep. Peter, let me ask you a question too. Speaking about that, we just had a guy retire from the DP Tour, World Tour, and you were his coach for years and years and years. He has shown a resilience in his game at 67 to still be playing out there and playing well. What in the hell keeps Bernhard Langer going? When you were coach, he had the yips. He's got the yips every other week.
Okay.
He doesn't look like he's hitting the ball real well. How the hell does he keep going and beat the hell out of everybody?
Well, okay, so let's deal with the yips first. The yips came about as a result of the crappy greens he was playing on as a kid in Germany. They were slow, they were wet, they were footprints, there were all kinds of, and he would make a stroke and the ball would bounce funny somewhere. And eventually that led him to the yips. So he figured out how to arm lock, right? He went left hand low, held on with the right hand, and started doing so. That's where
when did he start that, Peter?
Oh, that was what age? What age did the yips start?
Yeah, what age when he first started flinching because of the bad greens and knew he had to do something different?
Well, I first met him when he was 16 years old. That's how far back I go. His real coach is Willie Hoffman, a dear friend of mine who is unfortunately no longer with us. And then when I lived in South Florida and Bernhard lived in Boca Raton as well, then I augmented what Willie had done with him, and I worked with Bernhard for a number of years. And that's where I really got to know him. And so he he had a discipline and a desire to succeed that was second to none, in my opinion. He came from a relatively poor family, and he was bound and determined to make a success of himself in something, and it just ended up being golf. And he never lost that passion for excellence. He would work. He was so precise with everything. I know it's a German cliche that you are German and you shall do this accurately, but he was precise with everything. Swing weight of his clubs, the lie angle, the offset. He was meticulous. Every single detail had to be covered, right? And so he showed me early on that he had a desire to just keep getting better. And when he started, his left hand grip, I called it a 5-knuckle grip because I thought I could see his forefinger knuckle on the other side of his little finger when he started, and he vowed that he would never change the grip. Well, over the years, it has changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Microscopically, but he only changed it as much as he could handle. He didn't go from real strong to neutral. That was never going to be an option. He was always a shut blade player. He never tried to get square or open. But over the years, his swing has gotten technically more proficient, right? He had back problems. He had, you name it. But he's battled his way through, and his desire to fight through adversity, to me, was second to none. That's unbelievable. Well, look what he did at the Masters. Who'd have thought that he'd be a multiple Masters champion?
He ruptured his Achilles and was back in 2
playing pickleball.
months.
Yeah,
playing for French. That's
3 months.
That's
a 1 year recovery if you're in the prime of your life, typically. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a year and a half for that. I mean, it just shows. But I mean, you look back and you look at the Hale Irwins and you look at these guys that have competed for a long time under the gun, getting beat mentally, and just go out the next week and do it again and again. I marvel at those guys. Absolutely marvel, especially when you get, to that age that Bernhard is at 67, and he gets up every morning with the same intent to beat the crap out of these guys.
And I'm not going to discount.
Great, of course.
And I'm not going to discount. I mean, his faith is extremely important to him, and he is very religious. His faith is meaningful to him and his family, and so I'm not going to discount that either. That he's doing stuff for the good of his family, and to repay the Lord. You people can scoff at that, but that's a fact. That's a part of his life, right?
Sounds like a lot like Scotty Scheffler too.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's the same genre.
And people forget when Mark McCormick started the now infamous official World Golf Rankings, the first player at number 1 was Bernhard.
Wow.
He was the first number 1 player in the world.
Wow.
So he's been on top for a long time.
A long. Yeah, that is again. It's kind of a sidebar, but the fact that tenure has to warrant all sorts of accolades, because that is for this game where you don't win most of the time, majority, 90% of the time, 98%, you don't win, and you keep coming back and trying to win, and you're still doing that at 67.
Okay, so who is he the modern version of? There's one man.
Well, I mean, he is. Hold it. I mean, Scotty Scheffler is.
Bernhard is
way too young, but he's on that.
Bernhard's the modern version.
No, Bernhard is the modern version of somebody else.
Go ahead.
Sam Snead.
Sam Snead.
Sam Snead,
who is still playing well in his 60s.
Identical,
right?
But Sam played and competed, and he played beautifully until he was almost 70. Had putting woes, putted croquet style, putted side saddle, did whatever he had to succeed. But he came from humble beginnings, and he knew nothing but golf and how to fight through and so on. And so, I mean, Sam won more tournaments, I suppose, at least on the PGA Tour, than Bernhard. But you count Bernhard's worldwide wins and everything. To me, he's the latest version of Sam Snead. Now, people didn't take him seriously because his swing wasn't as beautiful as Sam's, but his swing was very efficient.
Yeah, and bottom line, it doesn't really matter.
No.
Golf, it doesn't matter at all. It used to, I thought, but it doesn't matter at all. Yeah, that's I have all sorts of respect for Bernhard and what he's done for this length of time, and that's, to me, that's how you measure these guys on the tour. Is, do they play good? Yeah, but they play good for 40 years. That's impossible. I mean, that's really impossible.
Open Championship picks: Keegan Bradley, Ryder Cup captain, and Bernhard Langer.
Don't go away, because when we come back, Gary will be with good friend Bob Tway, PGA champion, and someone who's suffered from the chipping yips. How did Bob overcome the chipping yips? Well, he's going to share it with Gary and you right here on Kostis and McCord, Off Their Rockers. Kostis and McCord, Off Their Rockers, a golf production, is brought to you in partnership with Golf Magazine and Golf.com. Peter Kostis and Gary McCord give their one-of-a-kind perspective featuring no filters takes, irreverent humor, and unparalleled understanding of the game. You can subscribe to Off Their Rockers for free on our YouTube channel or wherever you listen to podcasts. Kostis and McCord, Off Their Rockers is made possible by the generous support of sponsors, including Foresight Sports, with the #1 launch monitor on the PGA Tour, the Quad Pro, and their amazing simulators. Kostis and McCord, Off Their Rockers isn't just a copycat golf podcast. It breaks the mold, offering premium video and audio content that entertains, educates, and connects. With Peter and Gary's friends like Jim Nance, David Faraday, and more, behind-the-scenes stories and instruction, making each episode an adventure for those who live and breathe golf. On Off Their Rockers, the future is bold, the banter is sharp, and the fairways are limitless. We hope you enjoy Kostis and McCord, Off Their Rockers, a golf production.
Hello, friends. It's Jim Nance of CBS Sports, and I urge you to like and subscribe my brothers, Kostis and McCord, Off Their Rockers right now. You'll enjoy it.
Welcome to another episode of Kostis and McCord, Off Their Rockers. I'm sitting here with a good buddy of mine, and we're at Whisper Rock Golf Club. And Bob Tway, 1986 Player of the Year, 4 victories. It's a long time ago.
Long time
86.
ago.
Oh my goodness. How old are we? Anyway, I thought this episode, there is so much conjecture and there's so much bad information on an affliction that a lot of us have had, are going through, especially as we get older playing this game. Bob and I are out here every day hitting balls, playing, trying to stay active. But there's a certain thing that comes about with age, and I'd like to get more specific on this.
You're talking the chipping yips, aren't you?
I'm talking not only you, but you've gone through it, and it's the yips, and the yips basically was coined, I believe, by Sam Snead years ago. When he says, I get yippy, meaning I get an involuntary reaction as I get closer to the ball with my club. And basically, I've done a lot of studies on this. I first started the studies, Bob, with Mac O'Grady, who you know very well. And Mac, in the early 90s, employed 2 doctors at UCLA. They were neurologic doctors to come out, you'll like this, to come out and watch us both play a practice round at Riviera, okay? Now, Mac he's got the long putter. At that time, you could anchor it against your chest, and he was going like this. And I had the putter with the regular one. You got both hands on it, whatever grip you wanted. So we get done, we played 9 holes, we went inside, they're taking notes. Now, they have no idea about golf, none. They're just in the neurology business. So, okay, guys, what did you see? Well, Mac, you isolated to only one shoulder movement. You took one movement out. You anchored here. This isolated,
and you just push with your right shoulder back and forth. So as far as the brain's concerned, there was no symmetry. Didn't have to figure out anything else. Both sides of the brain's getting involved, and blah blah blah. They turn to me and they go, "Does anybody putt like you do?" That's when I knew, this whole golf thing is not. I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, Gary, you've got bimanual movement of an implement." Okay, that means putting with two hands, right? And I said, yeah. They said, well, you've got to choreograph the symmetry in the motor system, when to strike, with what hand and everything else. So basically your brain is going too fast. And I said, so you shouldn't be doing that? No. That went okay.
How'd you feel?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So then Mac, because Mac got it too. Mac with the putter got it. And so they did a report. And here I'm going to give you the breakdown of the report. It's the first one I've ever heard on the Yips, and it's a thing called myoclonus and focal dystonia. So let's get rid of the myoclonus. I don't understand that. A focal dystonia is a twitch. Okay, focal means it's isolated somewhere. And Mac handed out a questionnaire to PGA Tour pros and Class A. He got like 1,000 back. What was it? What was it? How did it affect you, this movement, this erratic movement? And it was everywhere. Left eye would twitch on one guy. One guy's knee would start going. I mean, it was all over the place, but mostly had to do with the hands, right? So basically, why? What was the common denominator of the Yips? It was age. Okay? The older you got, the worse off it got. So here's the reason. Okay, I'm going to try to go simple here. The reason is we are doing something that's very finite. The closer you get to the hole, the more finite you got to be to get that thing into the hole, okay? So after years of deterioration we've gone through, basically what happens is that this is called a length tension curve. And if I'm putting, I'm right here, and my body, my motor system knows where I am in time and space. I've been there my whole life, everything else. And I keep doing this, and I keep missing. And then I get mad at myself. This is where the chaos starts. So once you start to get mad at yourself for missing all these, at a certain point, the subconscious is going to go, Bob, I'll handle this, okay? I don't want you feeling bad. This is your id now talking. I don't want you feeling bad, so I'm going to help you. Once that says that, your subconscious, then you'll start going, like this, something will move, now we're in trouble, okay? So the simple thing that these two doctors told Mac was to change your length tension curve. Move it somehow, do something different. And this coincided with, remember a guy named Charlie Owens on the tour?
Oh, yeah.
Charlie was a paratrooper, and he fell at one point. Chute didn't open. He broke his I believe it was his right leg, shattered it, and they had to fuse it. And he played the tour.
Yeah.
Okay.
He played cross-handed.
Cross-handed on the tour, and he couldn't bend over to putt. So he went out in his garage and he put these pipes together and made this putter that was, I'm guessing it was about 45 inches long. And he made it so he could stand up and hold it like this and go like that. And that was the first we had heard of anybody putting with a long putter. So the classic case was, and we're still talking about a length tension curve. You're standing over it. I know where you are as your subconscious, and I'm going to screw you up because I'm going to try to help you. Remember a guy named Orville Moody?
Sure.
Okay.
U.S. Open champion.
U.S. Open champion. Orville, Sarge, hit it absolutely perfect, couldn't make it at all. And I'm playing with him at Endicott, New York, okay? And we're playing, and I'm putting pretty good. I'm making 8-footers for pars my whole career. And he goes, he was awful at putting. He goes, Gary, can you help me with putting? I said, yeah, let's go have some lunch, talk about it. We'll go out to the putting ring. So we did. We go out. I put 3 balls down from 4 feet. I said, okay, Sarge, get over it. Tell me when you're ready. He says, I'm ready. I said, he started taking it back. I said, what are you thinking about? He said, missing it. So I went and picked up the 3 balls and I left, okay? 2 years later, he went to the Champions Tour. He got this, okay? He's the #1 putter on the Champions Tour with 1.68 putts per hole, which is still a record.
Right.
The reason? He went from putting like this putting with a long putter going like this, and his motor system had no idea, or his brain directing the motor system had no idea what he was doing. So it let him go for a while, okay? So the essence of Max Steel was change your length tension curve. Do anything different. Let's try to stay ahead of it, okay? So now we'll get to, that's finite, and also the one thing that I see, Bob, and everybody as we get older, myself included, I don't know where the bottom of my swing is chipping, and I'll hit it fat a lot or thin a lot. You have gone through this. Why don't you take me through your journey with all the crap that I've just put out there? And I'll add one thing. I don't know if I've even said this yet. The yips are two things. It's neurologic. Okay, you have some kind of neurologic dysfunction, okay, whether it be Parkinson's or something. So that can be addressed in one way. The other way is performance anxiety. That means there's a ball there, there's a hole there, people are watching, and I get anxious and all hell breaks loose in any way, shape, or form. That's it. That's only the two indicators that we have. And you've made some great strides in what you're doing. And believe me, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is the only thing I've seen that all these guys are starting to do, and it actually works to cure the yips. Bob, take it away.
Well, thanks, Gary. First thing is, 25 years ago, if you'd have told me that I'd have problem chipping, I would have said you're full of you-know-what, because I was an exceptional short game player. Slowly, as I got older, and the start of my senior career, it wasn't too bad, and just slowly got worse. And I was messing around one day, trying to chip one-handed left-handed, one-handed right-handed, trying to just get better, you know, because by chipping two-handed, you know, I would hit it a little thin, I would hit it a little fat, it just was not consistent. And the crazy thing was, the easier the shot, the worse I was. Now, if I had one from the rough behind a bunker, it wasn't so bad. And I don't know if it's like you said, performance anxiety, that's a hard shot. If you don't pull it off, no big deal. But the one that you hit the par 5 shot right in front of the green in 2, easy up and down, you can do it blindfolded. I'd stub a little bit in front of the green, spin it a little bit, 20 feet by. And I'm like, what's going on here, right? So when I was practicing one-handed and two-handed, I would stand up there and I would just take one hand and chip it, and I would chip it fine.
So tell me, in your motor movement, what did you feel? What did you feel from having two hands on it, performance anxiety, and then going to one hand?
So if
What's
I would
the difference?
take two, all of a sudden it's like I would drag the club. So like this shot, I would put it back in my stance, and I would kind of go like that, and you could tell at the end I gave it a little bit extra because I felt like I was going to stick it in the ground a little bit. So someone would say, well, if you don't want to stab it a little bit in the back but too far back in your stance, move it up a little bit. And then I'd move it up a little bit, and then I would scoop it.
That's what I see, a lot of lifting.
I would scoop it, and you'd break down your left arm.
Yes.
And so it was a combination. It's like, well, if I put it back, I seem to kind of stab it. And if I put it up, for whatever the reason is, you scoop. And I kept going, well, I don't really understand. I can sit here one-handed, and I feel pretty comfortable, and I always release the club. Mm-hmm. And you can tell that it's a pretty nice golf shot, right? And someone would look at it and go, well, the technique looks great. So what I didn't understand is I went to every great chipper. They were all my friends, right?
Right.
And they all wanted to help.
Right.
And they all chipped great. And they would come and say, Bob, you need to do this. And they all had a different idea, mm-hmm. which is kind of strange. Mm-hmm. You know, in the big scheme of things in the golf swing, you've got plane, you got path and face and plane, and just get on that, you're okay. These guys, some of them were leading edge chippers.
Yep.
Some of them were all bounce chippers. Right. Some of them were no wrist cock. Some of them were lots of wrist cock. They all had different ideas, and they all were exceptional. And they could get me in a rhythm, and I look pretty good.
Yeah.
The problem is when we play golf, we hit the first 3 greens and we miss the 4th, and you haven't chipped in 45 minutes, and now you've got to get up and down. So you get up there, oh my gosh. So now you have the anxiety, now you've got the tight lie into the grain or whatever, and it's like, what do I do? And then it would be that, or it would be that,
Right.
and it wouldn't work.
Right.
So I got to where, I keep dropping my club. So I got to where I just would get up there after 45 minutes. As we talked about earlier, I haven't hit a golf shot in 2 weeks, and here I am in front of you, standing here going and hitting
Just
really
perfect.
nice chips.
Right,
And
right.
I haven't hit a golf shot in 2 weeks. I've been
Right,
traveling.
right.
So there's something to this, and what I feel is that the club is always getting released.
Yes. Yes.
So if I was to put it back in my stance, yes, it would. The front leading edge would catch a little bit, up a little bit. I don't know if it's going to do much. It might go a little bit higher, but it's not chicken winged.
Right.
It's not punched into the ground.
Right.
So that's what I feel the most comfortable with, is standing here. And people talk about, oh, the ball position's got to be here. The ball position's got to be there. Well, okay, one foot up in the air. People would love to hit that shot.
Right.
I'm not sure that all that matters.
Right.
You can measure all this stuff. Now, I'm not saying I'm not on the tour anymore, and I'm not world class like these guys. So yes, all their stuff is
Right.
very important.
Right.
I'm talking about people who want to enjoy the game now.
And keep
I'm
playing.
65 years old. You and I play all the time. When we're playing for money, I don't want to hit a bad shot. I want to get up and down.
Right.
It allows me to do that.
Right.
So by walking up, don't really like the lie, don't really like the shot, take it back, release the club. That was a little bit fat.
Yep.
Not always going to hit them great, right? Same thing. Boop. Release it. Beautiful. You'd love to have that shot.
Yes. Without a doubt.
So, we talked about this before.
Yep.
At every club all over the country, people don't like to play the game because of
Right.
this.
Right.
I couldn't really understand how I could play in a pro-am and play with a lot of great people, most of which were not very, very good.
Right.
They'd miss a green and they'd walk up there and
Yeah.
hit this beautiful shot up there, and I went,
How do you do that?
How did he do that?
How do you do that?
here I am,
Right.
supposed to be really good, and I can do that.
Can't do it. Take out the putter and hit it like
Yeah,
everybody
it's
else
like
does.
you putt,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I couldn't understand. Forever I thought, technique. I'm not sure. I mean, it must be a little technique, but it's like you're saying, you're doing something different to relieve some of the anxiety.
Exactly.
That's what I'm
If
thinking.
when I watch this, and we've got a bunch of guys out here that, I mean, if you put them a foot in front of the green, they're not going to hit that green if they're chipping. It's brutal, right? And I've watched them all kind of gravitate towards this. And here's what I see. When you get performance anxiety, and I am trying to hit that ball to that specific point, trying to get a spot there, you start to get involved with all sorts of things you shouldn't. And basically on the downswing, you excite this riot. You can see these guys twitching and flipping, okay? Now what I see when these guys are doing it one-handed like you're doing, I see the right hand and I see the head passing the right hand.
Mm-hmm.
I am not putting any torque whatsoever on this grip. I'm just letting the head go like, every one of your chips, you're letting the head go like this. When I see you chipping when you're doing it two hands, and I would see this start to accelerate right here and then go like hell.
Like a pull.
And then you'd go like this, trying to slow it down. So when you have the yips, a focal dystonia, you're accelerating and then you're braking. And the only way to brake is you've got to go and then pull back like this. That's why you always got the chicken wing. Everybody does that. I've never seen you ever one-handed do that. The club, the head now is passing the hands as this right here is the fulcrum, and it goes nicely. And the farther you want to hit it, the longer you swing it. And it's very rhythmical. And it really is the only, if you go, okay guys, I've got a cure for the yips. From what I've seen, and talking to Dr. Charles Adler from the Mayo Clinic, who's written books on this, and we discuss it all the time, that this is the best way to get out of the problems you have of trying to hit something a short distance into a hole that's very small and a ball that's just a little smaller. It gets finite and it gets to the point you've got to get that anxiety out. And I've watched you totally reverse this in a couple of months, basically. Remember when you first started doing it, you know where to put your right hand?
Oh yeah,
you
know where to put it in the pocket on the back leg.
Fall down Fred, that's how he does it. He puts it right there and goes. And these guys they're really good that way. I mean, I'd go out and try to chip that way, and it's pretty easy to do. So if we have found a cure, I'm not saying we have, but if we found a way to alleviate it and let you as a golfer go out and play and not go nuts once you miss a green.
Well, I think that's the whole thing we're striving for, is to let people enjoy the game of golf as they get older. And chipping, to me, anyone can putt, right? Even if you have the yips, you can still kind of putt a little bit, right? But you've got to be able to chip well to play good golf. You can't hit all the greens, the par fives or whatever. And people ask me, how far can you do this? Well, you can do it up to 20 yards. And then after that, people don't usually have much problem, right?
Right.
So it's just like if I was to hit one across the green to that other one, it's just a bigger swing.
Don't go in.
so
believe me, before you start doing that, he'd hit it right here. So this is, I think it's an extraordinary way to look at it and to go about your business, because it really doesn't take much effort. You go there and you get your normal stance, and like you said, find your ball position, put your left hand here, and just watch how the head passes the hands. And that's your whole key right there. Well, Bob, that should about do it. And hopefully we've helped some people find another avenue for their short game indiscretions. Okay, nice way to put it. But this actually, I've watched guys out here use this that couldn't chip at all, and they can actually chip one-handed, as you do, very well.
I hope so. Like I said, we all love the game. All we want to do is be able to keep playing it as we get older. So try it. I hope it helps.
It will help, believe me.
Thanks so much for watching Kostis and McCord Off Their Rockers, a golf production. Remember, like, subscribe, and share it with your golf friends. Don't miss an episode. Click that notification bell right below, and you'll get notified whenever we have a new episode up. It's Kostis and McCord Off Their Rockers is going to be bringing you some more great guests and, of course, great tips from Coach Kostis. And we're going to be giving you a little insight on what happens behind the scenes and what's going on in the world of golf every week here on Kostis and McCord Off Their Rockers. We'll be back with another episode of Kostis and McCord Off Their Rockers very soon. Thanks for watching.